Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2021 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Yes, F1 is back in Brazil for one of my favourite races of the season. I absolutely love this track, and do you know what? More often than not, it tends to throw up a pretty good race. We have seen some absolute classics at Interlagos over the years, so fingers crossed we'll get another one on Sunday. Oh, and don't forget it is, of course, the final sprint weekend of the season. Oh, bet you can't wait. But anyway, let's kick things off with the usual round of track stats. So last weekend, F1 was in Mexico for, unsurprisingly, the Mexico City Grand Prix. But now, for the first time since 2019, it's onto the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, a track I'll be calling Interlagos for the rest of this video, for round 19 of this epic season. The event has a new name, but the venue is the same, I promise. That's the last time I'll use that this year at least. A lap of the circuit is 4.309 kilometres long, that is if you prefer 2.677 miles, and is made up of 15 corners. 10 of those are left-handers, and it'll come as no surprise to hear that the other 5 are therefore obviously right-handers. And come Sunday, we are set for a total of 71 racing laps. Just the 2 DRS zones this weekend to help drivers get some overtaking done. The first runs between turns 3 and 4 with the second down the start-finish straight, but the activation point is just before turn 15, so it isn't really a straight DRS zone. The race lap record is held by Valtteri Bottas, who posted a 1:10.540 in 2018. I struggle to say that, no idea why, it's just numbers, come on Sean. And if you're wondering, the fastest lap of the weekend the last time F1 visited the track was a 1:07.503, and that was set by Max Verstappen during Q2. And although the Dutchman was actually 5 thousandths of a second slower than that in Q3, he still took pole position and went on to convert that into victory, leading home Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton. Gasly and Hamilton having that epic drag race to the line. But the world champion would later lose his top 3 finish after receiving a 5-second penalty for spinning Alex Albon around, and that promoted Carlos Sainz to the podium, his first career podium and McLaren's first podium since the 2014 Australian Grand Prix. And what a race it was in 2019, by the way. I was watching the highlights back ahead of making this preview, and I'd sort of forgotten how chaotic the last few laps were. We had Bottas's smoking engine, which forced him to retire, and that triggered a safety car. We had Hamilton and Verstappen battling for the lead. More of that this weekend, please. And then we got the 2 Ferraris colliding late on, as well as that drag race to the line and the Albon incident I've already mentioned. It was a mad ending. Brilliant, but completely mad. Right then, let's talk strategy, tyres and all that wonderful stuff. The compounds available for this one are the same as they were last week, and they are the hard C2, the medium C3 and the soft C4. And don't forget, it is a sprint weekend, so the allocation is slightly different, with each driver getting 2 sets of the hards, 4 of the mediums and 6 of those softs. Now, the race data from 2019 is a bit old now, but still worth a quick mention. The winning strategy was a 3-stopper, but that was heavily influenced by that late safety car. It is more likely, therefore, that we won't see more than 2 stops, which is what most of the field went for, although Carlos Sainz did only stop once. Basically, there are plenty of strategy options, and because you can overtake at Interlagos, track position isn't as critical as it can be at some tracks, so hopefully we'll see a good mix throughout the field. The pit lane lost time, according to Mercedes, is 23.5 seconds, and looking at the fastest stop of the day from 2019, Red Bull managed an incredible 1.82 second stop with a total pit lane lost time of just over 22.8 seconds for Verstappen. Just something worth bearing in mind for this weekend when it comes to strategy. As was the case last time F1 visited the circuit, the safety car could easily play its part in strategy, but so could the weather. Are you ready for a couple of cliches? Here goes. Interlagos takes its name from the fact it is between lakes, and so that means weather at the circuit can be really unpredictable. Not the first time you're going to hear stuff like that this weekend. The forecast at time of recording is that it is expected to stay dry on Friday, but then again there is a 40% chance of a shower hitting during FP1, and that risk is 40% again for qualifying, so we could see a little bit of rain. Saturday, the conditions are similar for FP2, but the risk of rain is currently expected to drop to 20% for the sprint. And on Sunday, that risk drops just a little bit more to 10%, but it will be cloudy again, though a bit like Spa. You never know, and a sudden surprise shower should never be written off completely. And the schedule for the weekend is, as you'd expect, a little bit different due to the sprint. So FP1 will take place on Friday from 3:30 p.m. GMT, and that will last for the usual 1 hour. Qualifying is also on Friday, and that starts at 7 p.m. FP2 is on Saturday and that starts at 3 p.m. with sprint underway from 7:30 later that evening. And on Sunday, it is lights out for the race at 5 p.m. and again, that is in UK time. Before I run through a few quick news stories and make some predictions, it's time to go over some fast facts ahead of the weekend. F1 made its first appearance at Interlagos all the way back in 1972, but the first World Championship event took place a year later, meaning that over the years the circuit has hosted a total of 37 championship races. In that time, 24 different drivers have taken victory at the track, with Emerson Fittipaldi being the first, and Max Verstappen, of course, the most recent. 23 different drivers have taken pole position, and it's a tie for the most between Ayrton Senna, Rubens Barrichello, Mika Hakkinen, Felipe Massa and Lewis Hamilton, who each have 3. Interlagos returned as the host of the Brazilian Grand Prix in 1990 after almost a decade away, but has hosted every single race since. And in 2003, Giancarlo Fisichella took his first ever F1 win and the last win for both Jordan and Ford at a rain-soaked Interlagos following heavy crashes for Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso, the Spaniard collecting a wheel from Webber's crash, which ultimately all brought out the red flag and ended the race early. The win was originally given to Kimi Raikkonen due to a timekeeping error, but Fisichella would be officially credited with the victory just days later and received his trophy at Imola ahead of the San Marino Grand Prix. And if you're looking for a classic chaotic Grand Prix to watch, I highly recommend the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix if you haven't seen it already, although I probably should have said spoiler alert. Anyway, moving on. It's not been a massively busy week in terms of news, but there are a few things to note ahead of the race in Brazil. First up, Michael Masi is confident that the new track at Jeddah will be ready in time for it to host its first Grand Prix as planned in December. Images emerged last week which showed there was still a lot of work to do to get the venue ready, something to be fair Masi alludes to, and many questioned whether the event would be able to go ahead. We discussed it of course on the race reaction stream on Sunday. But the race director says that the core elements, so that's things like the track, the safety infrastructure, pit buildings and race control, are obviously the most important things, the critical things, and having spoken to circuit bosses, he has no concerns that things will be ready on time. Masi also said that following the race in Brazil, he hopes to be able to head off to Saudi Arabia for an update, although he may wait until after Qatar due to the busy schedule. So I'd imagine, either way, we're going to get an update in a couple of weeks' time, which would probably be a good thing because the race is not all that far away. Anyway, next up, Sebastian Vettel and George Russell have both expressed concerns about the use of so-called sausage curbs following incidents for Abby Eaton and Christian Weir, who both suffered injuries after their cars went airborne over the curbs in Austin, which of course resulted in the curbs on the exit of Turn 2 being removed by the FIA. Vettel says he would rather have track limits be a regular topic of conversation and debate than see drivers getting injured, and Russell confirmed that the GPDA is pushing hard with the FIA to make improvements, and it is unacceptable that something designed to police track limits could come at the expense of injuries. In Mexico, the curbs at Turn 1 were also removed, but Michael Masi says that deciding to remove sausage curbs has to be considered on a case-by-case basis by the FIA Safety Department. And finally, for this part, you can expect to see some new branding around Interlagos this weekend. F1 has revealed its new graphics, which have been bought in to increase awareness of the sport's hybrid technology and will feature at Grand Prix weekends going forward. They will feature on TV graphics throughout the paddock, hospitality and in the pit lane, all in a bid to help make F1's commitment to hybrid power clear. The branding, by the way, also includes a tagline, powered by hybrid since 2014. And now actually feels like a great time just to remind you, this video is powered by Motorsport Network and Motorsport Images. That was dreadful. I am so sorry. As had already been announced, by 2030, F1 plans to achieve net zero carbon emissions, wants all Grand Prix to be sustainable events by 2025. And from 2022, the sport will use more sustainable fuel with the eventual aim of the new generation of power units using 100% sustainable fuel. Enough about all of that, though. Time for me to make my usual round of incredibly accurate predictions. And if you believe that, I don't know what to tell you. As always, if you disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. Not gonna lie, not really sure where to go with this one. As I say every time, unless we see some drama, the chances are it will be another weekend of Hamilton versus Verstappen, with Bottas and Perez possibly getting in the mix, with them playing their own part in the battle. A lot of people talk about how the track should suit Red Bull, and thanks to the altitude, which isn't as extreme as Mexico, but is still worth considering, there's a great chance that it will suit them. However, Mercedes haven't exactly struggled that much at Interlagos over the years, winning 4 of the last 6, alright. Had it not been for Esteban Ocon, Verstappen likely would have won in 2018, but Mercedes also took every pole between 2014 and 2018. Yeah, okay, as ever, the form book isn't a thing to base these on because I don't really think anyone has been this competitive against Merc since 2014. Point is, though, Mercedes aren't just going to fall away, and I fully expect them to be much closer to Verstappen and Red Bull in Brazil than they were in Mexico. All of that waffle aside, I'm still going to go for Verstappen across the board this weekend for my safe predictions. Again, I think Hamilton and Mercedes will be closer, but I think Red Bull will just have the edge. I will try and mix it up a little bit, though, and say Verstappen for speaking on Friday, Hamilton to win the sprint on Saturday, and Verstappen for the race proper on Sunday, with Hamilton, assuming no engine change or anything like that, second. And just for the sake of not giving the exact same predictions as last time, I'll slap Bottas in P3. As for some bolder predictions, I think Ferrari are looking very good in that battle for P3 now and seem to have an edge over McLaren. But because these are supposed to be a bit more bold, I'll actually say McLaren as outsiders for a podium. And if we get some chaos, maybe a shock win with Lando Norris nicking his first ever victory. My shock podium is going to Gasly. He's more than capable of pulling off a podium if things kick off, as we saw last time in Brazil. I'll say a surprise top 5 from Raikkonen. Yeah, like I say, bold. You never know. And Giovinazzi will take a points finish as well. As for my one to watch, I'm actually going to go with Yuki Tsunoda. He was out of the race early in Mexico, as I'm sure you remember, and I'm just intrigued to see how he bounces back from that. It would be good to see him pick up a point or two this weekend, points that could be critical in that tight fight with Alpine. There are so many great battles up and down the grid this year and so much more still to be decided. And in my opinion anyway, it's tough to call most of the fights out there. That is it for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix preview then, but you can, as always, let me know your thoughts and your predictions down in the comments section. So, who do you think will take that bloody speaking thing on Friday? Who are you backing to win the sprint, and who do you think will come out on top on Sunday? What is your top 3? Now, I will be back live on Sunday shortly after the race for the usual reaction stream, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, because it really does help out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.